What sort of proof do we have that God actually gave us these laws? Pretty much none, really. What sort of proof do we have that the Prophet Muhammad actually heard God and not anybody else? None again. So we're sort of taking this on an assumption that everything happened in a perfect order and everything was perfect and God in His perfect almightiness. And of course, the most important assumption that God exists. What proof do we have God exists? None again. So, on that assumption being put out there in the basis of Sharia, I'll continue my talk.
He said that religion can't be proven, well, free will can't be proven, justice, equality, and morality can't be proven by any empirical standards. So then do we discount that as well? Sure, are we going to be consistent on this?
This is just to demonstrate how stagnant religion actually is. It has never really changed. These things have never really changed in thousands of years. So this is just an exercise in demonstrating how stagnant it is.
What about, religion is stagnant, it doesn't change. It's coming from a person defending a system which is 2,500 years old. Democracy, it actually predates Islam. It's an older concept than Islam. So which one is more stagnant?
Definitions. It seems to me a lot of people are not clear on some of these definitions. A lot of people misunderstand them, a lot of people are not clear on them. Therefore, I've taken the liberty to define a few of them. Liberalism, for example, a political orientation that favors social progress by reform and changing laws rather than revolution. It's quite different. We don't just simply act on our impulses. We are still rational beings.
He says liberalism is reformation by changing laws, not revolution. Please tie up to the American Revolution, the French Revolution, and the English Glorious Revolution, where they established the liberal societies based on revolution.
Democracy, a system of government by the whole population or the eligible members of state who are elected, typically through elected representatives with the addition of embedded human rights. Now, this is very, very important, and with the addition of embedded human rights. Why? Because we have fundamental rights. Freedom of speech, for example, is one of them. Nothing can trample over it. Democracy, in its purest form, says, if 80% of you agree in a very violent law, it should pass. No, that is not the case. Democracy, in this context, has embedded human rights, which can never be trampled upon.
He said democracy, his definition was its reference to all citizens. So all citizens must be able to vote. Well, if that's the case, then democracy only existed in last century. And it never existed before that, because universal suffrage only happened last century, not before that. I suppose the democracy of Athens would be quite interesting to hear your point about that. He says that with the addition of human rights, no, democracy doesn't necessarily need to have human rights, or any definition of human rights, except what the state agrees on, or the majority agrees on. That's democracy. It doesn't say human rights. The Greeks never understood any idea of human rights in addition to democracy. This is your anachronistic liberal perspective on the matter.
Evidence to prove that countries with a secular constitution and people with secular values are doing better socially, scientifically, and in terms of leading a satisfactory and peaceful life. The Human Development Index. If you're really observant, you'll see that all the secular nations end up in the top part. The ambiguous nations after that, and the Islamic countries later on muddled up. But none of those countries, Islamic or ambiguous, actually beat the secular nations. The peace index, the same pattern repeats. Ambiguous nation in the bottom, Islamic countries muddled up over there. None of them actually beating the secular countries. If you're really observant again, you'll see the pattern repeats. Again, it's saddening to think these countries don't place such little importance on research. And to top it all off, there's a clear relationship between how successful a country is and the religiousness or the lack of that country.
He says that secular countries are doing better than religious countries. Well, it depends what you define as secular. So if you want to say liberal democracy, then how do you account for China, which is now surpassing, it's going to be surpassing the biggest and most powerful liberal democracy in the world, in its industry, and its wealth, and so on and so forth. In the next 20 years, they'll be top of the GDP. It is predicted. Either Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, they always go back to these countries, Saudi Arabia or Pakistan or Kuwait. There's only one model for an Islamic state, and it's called a caliphate. There is no other system. The caliphate was destroyed in 924 by secular factions in Turkey. So we're going to look at what the Sharia says and what the Islamic models of state says, not what some modernist secular constructions such as Saudi Arabia and Pakistan have to say, and they are mostly secular with only a few token Islamic laws. The Scandinavian argument, which is basically Sweden is in one part, Sweden and Norway, these are some great states, aren't they? Well, what he doesn't seem to mention is they're also highly xenophobic, and they have a lot of problem with far-right activities. Far-right party takes 16.3% of the vote. Discrimination against Muslims and immigrants is very high. Just read Amnesty International's discourse on discrimination against Muslims in Europe. Norway and Sweden rank quite high. Sweden and Norway, they're not liberal democracies as you understand them. They're, Sweden is referred to as a totalitarian modernist democracy, if you want to call it like that. It's a virtual one-party system, and the state kind of controls everything. Your tax rate is about 65%, and it's more collectivist society, not an individualistic liberal society. So Scandinavia, very different to the kind of European or the mainstream secular democracy. Why they always go to Scandinavia? That's like the pinnacle of secular democracy. The biggest democracies, secular democracies, are France, England, and USA. Why not cite them for examples of harmony, interracial peace, and utopia? We're going to get to them. So, secular countries are very safer. Please go to Detroit in USA, see what is safer. 17,500 deaths per year, and the highest incarceration rate of humans in the world, beating China. So that's my secular democracy of USA, unless you want to denounce USA as not actually your secular democracy.
Abrahamic religions under Islamic law. I have a book here from Dr. Sam Harris. I showed you the plight of Jewish people under Islamic rule. They have to pay jizya to be spared from army duty, so to speak. The truth is that for life of Jews within the house of Islam has been characterized by ceaseless humiliation and regular pogroms. A state of apartheid had been the norm, in which Jews have been forbidden to bear arms, to give evidence in court, or to ride horses. They have been forced to wear badges of distinction. Yes, despite popular belief, the yellow badge was actually originating from Baghdad, not Nazi Germany. This is where it came from. And to avoid certain streets and buildings, they have been obliged under penalty of violence and even death to pass Muslims only on their left side, which is considered the impure side, while keeping their eyes lowered. Now I shall tell you the organized massacres of Jewish people under Islamic rule. In Morocco, 1728, 1790, 1875, 1884, 1890, 1903, 1912, 1948, 1952, and 1955. And this is in one city of one religion. I haven't even gone into the other cities and of other religions or non-religious people. One city, one religion.
Sam Harris, oh good old Sam Harris. Well, a quote from Sam Harris must be true then, because I can bring you a quote from a real historian. Sam Harris is not a historian, he's a neuroscientist. I'll get my history from historians. So Richard W. Bulliett said, he said that looking at the Islamic civilization, he says, minutely studying case after case, they have shown that justice was generally meted out impartially, irrespective of religion, official status, and gender, to the subjects in Islamic lands. Not being subject to the Sharia, Jews and Christians were free to go to their own religious authorities for adjudications of disputes, but in many cases, they went instead to the Islamic courts. And I can bring you tons of quotes by historians about the golden age for Judaism, how Judaism, there's an article when Jewish Chronicle came out, how Judaism was saved by the Muslims because while they're being persecuted and eliminated in Europe, they had refuge in Islamic lands, and there was a flowering of Jewish intellectual scholarship and discussion. So, Sam Harris is quite ironic, coming from the guy who says that it's okay to preemptively wipe out people if they have a belief which could be dangerous. Just for what they believe. Sam Harris said that, not the model of morality there.
These are actual facts taken from the officials. Homosexual relation acts of behavior illegal in 36 Islamic countries. 10 of them impose a death penalty. More than 4,000 LGBT members have been executed in Iran. 2/3 of reported all incidents against gay violence in Amsterdam are by Muslim youths. A Gallup survey showed not a single Muslim approved of homosexuality. I'm not saying this is true for all of you. I'm just showing you the facts of what the Gallup poll showed.
Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual rights, and secular democracy and gay rights. It was interesting. I saw on his own Facebook profile him denouncing India, which is the biggest secular democracy in the world, for banning gay rights. So does gay rights is guaranteed by secular democracy? No, it isn't. So you're now arguing for liberal or liberal ideas, not secular democracy. Secular democracy, the majority will out, whatever the majority wants. And in India, we see just how wonderful secularism has united the people of India together, how the Muslims and the Christians in Orissa province and the Hindus all get along swimmingly with pogroms and massacres and discrimination and treated like second-class citizens. In secular democracies such as Israel, we also see Arabs treated like second-class citizens, even Jews from other countries or not from European descent being treated less than those of Ashkenazi origin. So secularism never resolves ethnic issues. In fact, India was actually, there was much better cooperation and tolerance and harmony between Muslims and Christians before colonization of India and before you create secularism than afterwards. Now Christians and Hindus and Muslims are at each other's throats.